the different ways that my food actually affected me. And so I started with each flavor of Hamburger Helper, one box at a time. And then, after a horrible experience at the sale barn one year with our cattle, one of our very first years, I decided that we were going to start selling directly to moms across the state of Iowa. And that's how I got started, and that's, I think, why we connected so much in the beginning. And we've got several of our beef maps ranchers on here. Kylie, down there, is from Legacy Ranch in Illinois. Like you said, Marcy and Matt from Rattlesnake are from Rattlesnake Meats down in Kansas. And Jay Z Meat, I don't know if we have Joe and Jenny or which of the crew we have on tonight. But they are from out in Colorado. And we've got Anthony with Miller Bison, um, down down in the Southwest doing his thing. Um, but we love connecting consumers with producers. And maybe Jenny can start and tell us a little bit about your ranch and how you guys got started.
Hi, Shannon. It's Jenny and Joe. We're both here. So we just, my husband's family started a ranch back in, the early 70s. And it was just at that time a kind of a hobby for him. My father-in-law was in construction. And when my husband and I were married, he asked us, do you guys want to take over our construction business or the ranch? At the time, they were running about 5,000 head of sheep. So we were like, we want the ranch. That's kind of where we started doing that. We fell in love with the ranching business, and Joe was doing it since he was a little boy. Came along a little later, but we started dating at young age, so we were both grew up doing it together. And then we had three wonderful boys, and they fell in love with the ranching, and they've all since married and have kids. We have 6 grandkids. So my mother-in-law and father-in-law and the rest of us, there's about 16 of us here on the ranch. They're all still trying to make a go of it. We've changed from sheep. Uh, I'm not sure what year. In the early 90s, we switched over to cattle. And we've just been kind of running it more of like I don't know, commercial, I guess is what it's called. More just taking them to the sale barn, trying to make a living, but also doing everything outside of the ranch to keep the ranch alive. And as you know, that's a tough way to go. So um, is actually my husband had been listening to some stuff about selling direct to consumer online. So we've been dipping our feet in it and enjoying it because you sure get more bang for your buck. But we run some, well, I'll let Joe speak to the kind of cattle we run. So,
Well, we run Angus Gelby Cross. A lot of people call them balancers. I don't know if you know what the balancers are, but we like them. They're easy to cab. They're easy to handle. They got big rib eyes, and they finish out really good with what we're doing with the grass, because that's all we do is they just eat nothing but grass. Whether it's the grass that we grow or if it's in the mountains in Cimarron, either one, they just seem to really thrive on that.
that was a big change for us too, because when we were doing the commercial ranching side of things, we would just fatten some steers for us or for family or friends that were buying from us, and we'd fatten them on grain. And so when we started seeing this big move towards grass-fed and grass-finished beef, we got on board with it, and we can't tell the difference in the meat. So we had no problem switching over, and it is a little bit cheaper to finish them out if you don't have to buy the grains. So that fit right in with our little project that we're doing, and so we've just been moving along that way, and now we're all trying to get it going so we can get people back on working on the ranch instead of outsourcing all of our resources to pay for the ranch stuff.
Unfortunately, most people don't understand that ranchers have a second job. Most ranchers have a day job in order to pay the bills to keep the ranch afloat.
Yep.
And I think that that's one thing that we have to keep sharing is that this is our nighttime job in addition to our daytime jobs a lot of times. And that's because it's our passion.
Yeah.
And you can hear that in your guys' voice. Um, what experiences have you had so far with beef maps? I think I might have kind of oversold you from our short discussion here a little bit ago tonight.
Well, it's been amazing journey. Once you contacted us in December, we've just been rocking and rolling with a lot of uh, sales and then a lot of interest as well. And talking to Joe after our conversation today, we might have a small steer to take in because just keep it alive, keep it going. We were going to save it till October till it was completely finished, but could still get beef off of it if we needed to. So we'll figure it out. But it's been amazing the contacts that we've had and the sales that we've had and far reaching too. You know, that's what's so nice. It's not just a little corner of the world, the corner of the United States. It's all over. We've had contact with people.
That's one thing that I do love about the internet is that we get to develop friends all across the nation. We get to ship beef everywhere from New York City over to Western California and get to meet those people
Yeah.
in between those places as well. I think those relationships, those conversations that you're talking about having are just the best for me.
Yeah, yes, they are. And we've just been so blessed to meet, well, not you in person, but meet you
Yeah.
through the phone and the internet. And we've been super blessed to meet the people that we've met. And
I think it's pretty awesome. And I think Jenny could speak to the conversation that she had with the gentleman just the other day with some beef that we sold.
yeah, I called him to reach out to him and just affirm that he was ready to for the shipment because I wasn't sure if he thought it might be coming a little later. Anyway, it was the 35-minute conversation on the phone, and I know I've heard other people talk about that, but I have never experienced the long call that we had. I felt a little inadequate with some of the questions he was asking me because he was talking in relative stuff here to Western Colorado, and I'm ashamed to say I was born and raised on the western slope of Colorado, but there was some of the questions he was asking me I didn't know. And I don't know if it was took me by surprise because then afterwards I knew exactly what he was asking me. I knew the answers to, but it took me half a second. But he's a super nice gentleman out of Arizona, and I would thought we would have had that kind of a conversation, but it was wonderful.
I think it's awesome that you can have those kind of conversations with these people, like one on one. They get to know us, we get to know them. It's just awesome that we can have that kind of connection.
Yeah, I truly think it's amazing. I heard Texas Slim say it here um, probably a year ago for the first time. Shake your rancher's hand. And he helps people virtually shake their rancher's hand. If they check out welcome to beef.com or if they go to beefmaps.com, like you're talking about, Jenny, that's exactly how people find you. And then having those conversations, having those direct connections, I think is truly life changing for us as ranchers. And maybe, I can't speak for them, but maybe for them as consumers. I know some of our customers say that it is, and that's all the difference in the world is meeting that rancher and shaking that rancher's hand, whether it's virtually or whether it's in person. Because, like you said, Jenny, we've never met in person, but I feel like we know each other. And
Yeah.
I usually just see Joe's smile in the background. He's intently listening and paying attention. But you and I text quite frequently and figure out what's going on. And I just love the calls when you get to sell another side of beef and you get so excited.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just a thrilling thing for us because it was a it's just, well, as anybody knows that starts their own business, it takes time to grow it, but when you're in that dire straight situation, like, you gotta, it's do or die time, you gotta make it go, and it's just continues to be happening for us that way, and that's just a wonderful blessing. And and we have a lot of friends over here that we've grown up with that are in ranching, and we watch them struggling. And so we when we first started this journey, we thought, well, we're going to see how it works out for us, and then we're going to tell them, hey, this is not a bad way to try it, because it's hard to make it go of it just by selling them at the sale barn.
It definitely is. I think that Adele had her hand up and had a question maybe for you.
Hi, good evening. I actually had a general question, but I do love the Beach Initiative and everything they're doing. I talk about y'all in spaces probably 3 or 4 times a week, and I know I have a lot of friends, connections on here that now buy from beatmaps.com. So I'm a big supporter, big fan. And I of course order of myself. My favorite hamburger meat is from Texas Slim, so that's all we eat in my house. But I guess my question is like for ranchers. So for ranchers that are interested in joining the program, kind of what does that look like? Is it kind of a and I know you guys have kind of some specific things like you want like the shake a rancher's hand. I just wasn't sure what the requirements were and how you I don't know, talk to ranchers about getting set up with y'all.
Well, the first step is for a rancher to go to beef.support, and that will connect them directly with me. And they'll get to learn more about our process. And through the emails, then you can sign up to be a listed rancher on Beef Maps. And that's $25 a month to have one of those icons on the back on the map of Beef Maps. And then once we get to know you a little bit better, I like to know that you have your systems in place. You have a website, you've shipped beef before, you've learned how to ship, all these sorts of things. Then I invite those ranchers that I get to know to be a featured rancher. And so that is pretty much by invitation only at this point because we like to know your qualities, how you raise your cattle. Obviously, we've all committed to no mRNA vaccines, those sorts of things. But Beef Dot Support is the beginning steps to getting to know us as a rancher at the Beef Initiative and to get your ranch listed on beefmaps.com.
That's super helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you a rancher in your own right, or you just have friends
No,
who like?
I have friends and we like to I have my daughter's homeschooled. We travel to different small towns all around Texas for like educational purposes and things like that.
Awesome.
We just super social, meet a lot of people, kind of involved with the community and that kind of thing. But I'm also in a lot of spaces and I talk to a lot of ranchers and farmers and people in agriculture. So I always refer back to your website, but I don't really know the process of getting set up. So going to beef.support.com. Is that what you said?
I think June might correct me. I think it's just beef.support.
Okay, perfect.
That's
Um,
that's
he's
correct. Yep.
okay.
I will write that down so that I can give that information. But yes, that's very exciting. I appreciate it.
We
Yeah,
love Adele. She's very supportive of everything we do. Thanks, Adele.
Yes, thank you so much, Adele. I definitely see you and noticed you, so I really appreciate that. And I will say, we typically reserve a lot of the questions for the end, so we can give the ranchers and stuff a chance to speak. So if you do have your hand raised, or anybody does have anything that they would like to say, we will definitely open the floor up for a lot more questions. But I did want to bring Adele up because she is a particularly strong supporter of us. So thanks again, Adele.
And I was just fixing to invite Breeauna to tell us about herself. Breeauna is the most amazing policy person I have ever met because she can talk to me as a basic rancher who understands enough to get in trouble of policy, but yet she can go toe to toe with some of the best Washington insiders. So, why don't you tell us about your position here in the Beef Initiative, Breeauna, and how you advocate for all of us, and what you're doing on Beef News? Excuse me.
Thanks, Shannon. My head's gonna explode. That's really sweet of you. Yeah, so I've been in policy for over a decade now, and our family, both my husband and I, come from families in agriculture, and we've watched as our family farms have shrunk, and our families have struggled through the in agricultural industrial shift. And so we moved due to some pretty terrible policies on the West Coast, and now we have just a small operation. We have cows and calves, and anyways, so in terms of policy, I've really had an incredible opportunity to bring the concepts of um, creating liquidity and injecting liquidity back into rural America, and putting that on paper in a tangible manner for the incoming Trump administration. One of the biggest parts of that was sort of breaking down what the federal plan for equitable long-term recovery and resilience has done. On paper, it looked like this great idea. I know there's a lot of backlash most recently when new Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins pulled the LPFS and the LFS funding, for example.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, right, those two programs specifically, were billions of dollars. They were only meant to be temporary during the pandemic to reach children who were at home, for example. That money really went out without oversight. And it was extremely arbitrary and not well defined in who it was going to. So, to give you an example about the disadvantaged ranchers that this money was supposed to prioritize, it was based on immutable characteristics as opposed to quality of food raised or time on the farm, things that we would really like to see, for example. But most importantly, I think for that program in particular, those programs were funded through the CCC. The CCC is the Commodity Credit Corporation, and this is the USDA's credit line. This past Congress really reallocated a ton of funds away from the USDA's credit line. And it's had a significant impact in rural America because those funds are traditionally prioritized for things like, water infrastructure upgrades. It's just one example, right? And we all watched this summer in Idaho as those farmers had their water curtailed because there was a dispute between the senior water right holders and the junior water right holders, because the water infrastructure is failing. And so neither are getting the water that they need. And this would be a pretty easy fix had that funding been in place. So I know it's, it can be a little bit difficult and people are a little frustrated here and there, but it's important to understand where this money has gone, who it's actually impacted, and if it's actually helped rural America or not. And that's something that that I've had the pleasure of being involved in recently. And really, when it comes down to it, our whole premise at the foundation, the I Am Texas Slim Foundation, revolves around very, very simplistic, classical, libertarian values of private property rights and the rights of the individual. So we're not partisan in any which way. We are solely focused on just these classical concepts of liberty, democracy, freedom, and the rights of the individual. So I think that's important to put out there because it really guides everything that we do in terms of policy and the fight for the separation of powers. And honestly, I'm working on an op-ed right now because we all see this impending economic catastrophe happening, and especially for everyone who is aware of the farm credit fiasco, for example, the unfunded liabilities that are sitting on the books. One of the main things that we could do to hedge that economic collapse is to radically decentralize our food and ag policy and just allow farmers to do what they do best. We could not only meet the needs of feeding this nation, but also reindustrialize in a way that helps to protect from farms going under and dragging down, collapsing our economy. So those are the fun things that we're working on right now. In addition to some state-based policy, we had some pretty significant wins at the state level, both through our South Dakota chapter, and also I think through our Texas chapter, which Slim can give you guys an update on. But yeah, we had some pretty good wins here, and we're hoping for some really good news coming up here shortly. We're really hoping that the state of South Dakota will conduct a summer study and work with not only stakeholders, but the incoming Trump or the now Trump administration on some of those policy concepts that I just outlined in terms of decentralizing some regulatory authority and allowing local processing. So yeah, thank you so much, Shannon. I really appreciate that wonderful and warm introduction. Much love, guys.
So
Well,
I just want to say, I just want to point out here, we've just covered here in the past 15 minutes or so, 3 different levels of decentralization that all need to be accomplished in order for this thing to actually be real, right? All the work that Breeauna is doing on the policy side to decentralize the authority back to the ranchers themselves, it needs to be matched up with a technology that's decentralized just as much, meaning one that points you, the consumer, back to the rancher's website, back to their domain name, which saves their domain at their ranch, right? And all of this circles around the decentralization of the food, right? Consumers getting their food supply from local sources, not from the beef cartel. So this is how we're working, and this is how we're thinking, and this is how we're always going to move. We're going to move in a radically decentralized way, and we're going to challenge the way a lot of people think about things, and we're going to challenge you to also think about things differently with us, because guess what? The road has already been paved on that side of things, on the centralized world with the big four, with the beef cartel, with all that stuff, right? The global industrial food and economic shift is upon us. It's happening. There's no stopping it. It's been written. So we're going to carve out our own pathway here. And so that's what we're doing. So thank you so much, Breeauna, for just, I mean, as soon as Breeauna comes in, everyone's just like jaw dropped. Okay, time to learn some things. And so we love to do that. We were talking earlier today, me, Breeauna, and Slim, about just how great it is to be involved with a team who emphasizes humanness over everything else, right? Breeauna should just go lose it on the policy side. She should freak out in policy because she is driving real change, and we need people like her to do that. I'm going to go freak out on the internet, and Ranch Mama's going to go freak out on the ranch. And Texas Slim, well, he's the original freak of the whole show, so he's just going to keep doing his thing. But yeah, we have a lot of fun here. So anyway, thank you so much, Breeauna, for making all the fun worth it, because without that policy side of things, our fight is so much harder, right? So, yes.
It truly is. And like I said earlier, Brianna just simplifies it so much and makes it seem so easy. That decentralized word really got me when we first met June and Slim, because it seems so big and so impossible. And that's why what I love to do now is just connect consumers with ranchers. I've gotten to know Marcy and Matt at Rattlesnake a little bit more as well, and they are, I would say, definite libertarians. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if we like that word or not, but um, we all just believe that we want to help people. And the best way to do that is not to go through the big systems, not to go through the big four packers, the commercial like marketplace, like what Jenny and Joe were talking about, because you don't have the control. What she alluded to was that ranchers don't get to set their own prices in any way, shape, or form. I've told the story a couple times, but your entire livelihood as a rancher goes through the ring in 60 to 90 seconds. And that one sale at that auction house determines if you get to make your mortgage payment for the entire year or if you've got to figure out how you're going to make up that deficit. So that's why helping ranchers connect directly to consumers. A lot of us, Anthony and I were talking the other day about pricing. And he said, well, I think I could do that. I'd have to go back and figure my prices a little bit tighter. But I think we could do that. And I think we can make that work. We were talking about free shipping on some of his snack stick bundles on a new partnership that we have, which you'll learn about pretty soon. Um, but just letting that rancher have that control again, I think is going to literally change the lives of so many ranchers that we have here. What do you guys think? Hit that mic button and you guys pipe up and tell me what you think.
Hey guys, it's Slim here, and I think that's the longest I haven't spoken since we started the Beef Initiative, and that and that's all credit to June and Brianna, and of course Ranch Mama and so many other people. But I think Ranch Mama said it best. It's daunting, and whenever we started the Beef Initiative, or whenever I was really doing the reconnaissance, to reflect back, Brianna was doing the same thing from her perspective in how we looked at everything. It was daunting, but we drilled it down and it came together that we met each other holistically. And this is how we meet ranchers now, because we learned how to shake the rancher's hand. And we basically, I have a phrase, it's so simple, it's complicated to most. And, how I came up through agriculture and big tech is that ranchers are caught in this never land of not having basically exposure in the digital world that we live in. And so we had to attack this from many different spectrums, from policy. And, we had to look at policy from the technical and the internet side of censorship. But, what we have to do is just get out there, people, to get back to how we used to do things. And that's to be human again, like June said, and to really understand, because not only, we brought up there's a new, breed of cattle. Everybody thinks that Angus cattle is the only thing that's out there that's worth, consuming. And the education process that begins by just shaking a rancher's hand is exactly what this nation needs right now, because not only do you get to understand what cow is, grazing, practices in Colorado on the western slope are a little bit different than the Texas Panhandle. And so, the consumers ever get to now create a whole new culture within the people that they meet, the support that they can give. The cattle industry right now, we bring all these statistics, and June keeps on saying the cartel. We're not eating American beef anymore. And so how do you attack that? You're going to read a label? No, that doesn't tell you where the beef is from. And so if you want to take action and basically develop a new relationship and a new basically consumption model. You can find it in the digital world, and it's, comes from audio, video, and food. And our ranchers need, consumer demand. And that's how all this changes. All the nefarious stuff that happens within policy, regulatory capture, mislabeling, not knowing and giving true transparency to what we're consuming can, it all gets eliminated. And you can do it's a lifestyle change. And I told everybody, I said, y'all just don't understand, and this is the international lifestyle. And it takes a little bit of time to understand. But we've been around the world a couple of times. We've looked at the global beef industry, and there is a global industrial shift, and it's underway, and they've had a lot of things planned. And Breeauna worked really hard to pass policy in South Dakota where there's not going to be any lab grown meats in our, in our independent school districts in South Dakota. That's important because they're going to flood our food industry with, worse, proteins than they're giving us market access to. So everybody can develop their market access. And Ranch Mama Shanen in June, by developing beef maps, is a decentralized, basically peer-to-peer store of value now that anybody in the nation can utilize. And, we always say build out locally, broadcast globally. If you have to buy your beef from a digital, map, then do it. But learn how to go out there and find your ranchers that are local and get them on beef maps. And this is how, we invert this system. So great job to the team. These spaces are going to be extremely valuable. June's made them into podcasts. So there's a lot of information. And guys, if you need to catch up, beefnews.org, go in there, research, do your own research, because you got one of the best in Breeauna. So, and one of the best producers, of course, in June. And then Ranch Mama Shanen is rewriting the books on decentralized marketing for our producers. And this is something they've never had.
It's Matt and Marcy. I'm working on some stuff, but Matt's gonna talk.
I don't have sense enough to figure out how to turn a mic on is what happened. So, what was the question again? we're a little bit about us is we actually started with a partnership of people. I was a cattle manager on a farm here in South Central Kansas, and I was partnered on that deal. And I don't know. Long story short, we ended up selling our partnership, and we bought out everybody at Rattlesnake Meat Company, and then I was sourcing my cattle from them since I was raising them anyway, from birth to process. But they have since sold their herd, and we sold off the last of the calves here this spring, and then we have gone totally on our own. So basically, we're going to be in almost a rebuild process here over the next couple of years. As I've got some grass leased. I'm looking for some more grass to lease, and then I'm going to be running some cows for some people and leasing some cattle over the next couple of years, so I can maybe build up enough capital to actually start my own herd. But since I'll be raising these cattle, that'll be my new source of cattle for our meat company. And then I'm first generation cattleman, and was born and raised in the South, and nobody for multiple generations back's been in agriculture. But probably up till about after my junior year in high school, I thought I was going to be an architect. I don't know, something switched in my mind, I guess, going into my senior year of high school, and I realized I wanted to be in agriculture. And I was actually, I guess, conventionally trained, University of Georgia, animal science degree. And then in 2015, we've been in Georgia, we've been in Kansas, this is our second time in Kansas, and in between that, we were in Wyoming. Always basically running other people's cattle. But in 2015, when I was in Wyoming, I went to a ranch management consulting seminar or a week-long course, ranching for profit, and that kind of started the process of changing my mind about how things have been done conventionally. And we've been in a slow process ever since. I really started ramping up or trying to start ramping up to the regenerative model, especially over the last year since I knew the cattle that I was managing were going to be going away. So we still right now finish kind of a traditional ration somewhat. I mean, we'll put some cattle aside and I'll give them all the alfalfa they want for the last 90 days of their life, and they'll get a corn distillers mix. But we've got we're kind of finishing that out this spring. And then we did some grass finished also, but starting this fall, we'll be grass finished, working towards more of a regenerative model, and also we'll be kind of getting into pasture chicken for sure this year. Hopefully, in the very near future, pasture pork, and even honey. Hopefully, in the next couple of years. So that's kind of where we're at. Yeah. I mean, when we were here the first time, there was we. I've been from the southeast. I've for whatever reason I've had for a long time a strong desire to go west, and I guess it's just part of the American pioneer spirit. And we made it to Kansas, and I knew I didn't have to leave from Kansas the first time, but we had an opportunity to go to Wyoming. So we went. We were north central, about 3 hours from Billings. That was my first time ever experiencing 30 below zero. I'm pretty cold natured coming from the south anyway. But when not long after we went to that ranch, we found out it was for sale, and it was for sale for multiple years while we were there. And then there was a couple of times that we thought it was going to get sold, and then there towards the end, we were fairly confident, so we decided we probably better leave on our own terms, and we did. And we ended up coming back to Kansas. So yeah, you've got to. Marcy's packed up the house, and we haven't quite done 24 hours, but we've for sure done a 72-hour deal a couple of times.
But I think you're going toward, and what I want to throw in is that being in this industry, if you're not creating your own future, you're working for somebody else and doing what somebody else is wanting to do with those cattle, and you have to abide by what they're wanting you to do with it. And for us, that's why we started Rattlesnake, so that we can have control, even more control over the finished product.
Yes, the number one reason in my mind that we started Rattlesnake was because of the Big Four beef cartel. We saw, especially during COVID, how everything was being manipulated. I mean, I've never, as far back as I can remember, I've never had a trust of the government. I don't care who's in charge. Even now, I love Trump, but I still, the trust is not there. But I somewhat still trusted, I guess, the agriculture industrial complex is what it is, but I still had a trust because I thought we was all on the same team. And really, that the last 4 or 5 years, that's just totally gone away for me because I'm tired of raising cattle for these cartel members, that are sticking it to, not they're sticking it to the consumer and the producer, and there's, I've got nothing wrong with people making money. I mean, all the best to anybody, but when you're manipulating people and products, and you're dishonest and not straightforward about things, then I've got a problem. So, I mean, this kind that's one reason we named it the company what we named it, and that's the way our logo is why it is. It's kind of a thumb in the eye to the to the to the Big Four cartel, and then I'm all about decentralization, and the more the merrier in this deal.
And Matt and Marcy, I mean, it's such a good point that Marcy brings up is, if you're a producer out there and consumers are always very worried and they're seeing the news lines, as far as mRNA, and there are concerns. But what a lot of people on the consumer side, they don't understand, and on the producer side, is the more that you divorce the cartel system, the more you become empowered, the more that you actually integrate into that empowerment of what's best for nature, what's best for your family, what's best for livestock. And we haven't had that feeling in this nation in a long time because we went so industrial. And right now with this movement of people figuring out who the cartel is, people are hearing all the statistics that we're not eating our own beef and that we're shipping our best beef overseas, and nobody really knows where the beef is going. And so, you can eliminate that process. And as you do that, you become empowered both sides. Consumers can divorce the big box supermarkets, and then, producers can divorce all of the type of input controls they have. They can, start getting into this regenerative movement as that consumer demand increases. Rattlesnake, everybody on this spaces, they have a chance now because in the, before COVID, we were going in the wrong direction. And we have a lot of cow-calf operators in the United States now that are kind of getting some confidence in, people that are on this call, the founders of the beef initiative, those ranchers and producers are now, leading a new industry, and it's going to be exciting to watch. And I think that the consumers are going to understand that, within that lifestyle and culture, that they're actually empowering a nation, and they're actually eating far better, than they ever thought they could. And it's not going to cost more. And they discover all these things that, they can eliminate, and it's not so confusing. But it's very empowering.
Yeah, my life's work will be accomplished when I can either
Oh,
make it as a
I guess I'll
rancher,
come in here.
going from beef or June, can you hear me?
Yes, we got you now. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say my life's work will be accomplished when I can make it as a cow calf producer and then sell that end product and still make still make a living going from calf to finish. Or when we've created a pipeline through the beef initiative where I can hand off to, a finisher and know that whatever I have started raising is going to be finished with um, the same care and attention and with the same intent, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's the pathway that we're seeing naturally just build out through beef maps. We were talking with DD1 the other day of Cattlemen United, and he's a cow calf operator too, and he wants to kind of part in the same direction, right? Because he never thought about going direct to consumer, but now he's looking at beef maps and he's hearing all these stories. He's like, well, shoot, I mean, this seems like a very viable avenue for us. So that's a great thing. Hey, Texas Slim or if anyone else wants to take over for a minute, or still dealing with some technical difficulties, I'm going to go help Ranch Mama get back in here. I see Legacy Ranch has joined us, and I would love to hear from y'all. How are y'all doing? Is it Sawyer? Is it? I haven't even met you. You guys know Ranch Mama.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, good to be on.
Yeah, nice to have you. Nice to have you. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself and about your ranch. Hey, Ranch Mama, why don't you leave the space and come back in and see if that works? But yeah, where are you guys? Tell us a little bit about your ranch and where you guys are based out of.
Yeah, we are in Eureka, Illinois. Um, and we are a first generation ranch family. My wife Abby and I started Legacy Ranch in 2021, and yeah, we raise American Wagyu beef cattle, and we direct market all of our beef to consumers across the country. So, got to know Shannon here in the last few months and working with her a little bit. And yeah, excited about what you guys are doing with the beef initiative, what they're doing with the beef initiative, and just looking to grow our operation and be able to really make a living with beef cattle be a reality for us here in Illinois. It's not very common. So yeah, it's kind of where we're at.
There we
Well,
go. I'm back. Thank you, Sawyer. I have so enjoyed learning more about your operation and what you do. I think you are unique in that you are an ag teacher. And crazy enough, though, a lot of us have a lot in common that we're first generation ranchers.
Yeah, I think it's really cool to see what young, well, I shouldn't say young, but just in general, just first generation people that are kind of new to the space from the outside coming in. I think it's really cool to see, to meet other people that are in the same boat as us, and just the kind of openness that I feel like a lot of us have to just learning and growing. I think one of the things that I think is a benefit to us is that we don't it's a benefit and a drawback, right? Like a lot of multi-generation family ranches, they have that to fall back on. They can go ask dad or ask grandpa. But what kind of we have going for us is these new markets and new opportunities. We're looking at it with a fresh set of eyes, and we're not really falling back on like, well, that's not the way we've always done it. I'm pretty open to really doing whatever we feel like works to get our product in more people's hands and grow our operation. So
That's one of the good things about the beef initiative that we kind of found out. I shook 3 ranchers' hands within like probably 10 days. And what we all found is that, a lot of ranchers don't have access talking to other producers, especially, in the regenerative space. In the commercial commodity space, you have all your associations. You have your feeder associations and just different to breed associations. And so you always have a good network, but they're pretty compartmentalized. And what we found in the beef initiative is, these first generational ranchers coming in, Jason Rick up in Colorado, he's a founder of the beef initiative. And, he's one of the best educators out there. And he's first generation, but he's one of the best because he brings a new vigor to it. And, we have a new generation that's coming up, and we're finding out, that there's a good cross pollination of education within the beef initiative, from processing, going to market, how to, rotational graze in different ways, looking at inputs in a different way. So, underneath the surface, there's an association within the beef initiative. And, it's been, possible with the work, that Breeauna''s done with the foundation. And so we battle the beef checkoff as well. For many years, we've paid in $10 billion. And we've basically supposed to have a marketing plan for us independent ranchers and producers. And we got a commercial out of it, and that was about it. And so, it's time to fight back. And this type of cross, reference type of education from the first generation on the way up into the old goats, that we can create a new cattle industry that's even more decentralized, and it comes with proof of work instead of proof of concept. So everybody welcome aboard, and get everybody else on board, because it's going to be a hell of a ride.
Yeah, I think we have some exciting things that are coming up. Some of these ranchers know a little bit about it, but we're not talking a ton about it yet. I wanted to make sure I recognize Anthony Miller with Bison is here. And I don't know if you'd consider yourself a first generation rancher, but I know that your buffaloes started as a hobby and now they're kind of a whole thing, aren't they, Anthony?
Yeah, they are. So, um, I would have grown up on a dairy farm years ago, but then we got away from that. Dad sold the cows when I was pretty young yet, and so I've always kind of had my fingers in bison. I'm not in bison, in the ag world a little bit, but definitely not the bison end of it. That's a brand new venture for us back in 2013 that we started in on that.
And so you raise your bison just strictly on grass and rotate and all the fun things, but you've become sort of an expert in bison snack sticks, haven't you?
Well, I don't consider myself an expert yet, but we're having a lot of fun doing it, putting it that way. So, yeah, so in 2013, I'll just give you a little bit of history. We bought 3 head of heifers off a friend, and no intentions of raising them. We just messing around. I was going to butcher them for myself, maybe sell one or two. And one of my friends is like, hey, he's like, why don't you get a bull and raise some bison calves? And I'm like, hey, go ahead, buy a bull if you want. I'll hang on to him. I didn't even have a farm at the time, so this was in 13. So he bought a bull, and then in 14 we bought a farm, just a commercial hay farm at the time. And so a few years later, it's just totally a hobby as far as the bison went. A few years later, I gave him a bull back to butcher, and we just kept playing around. Then in 18, we'd build a herd up to 20 some animals, and I went and bought another 27. And then at the time, I'm like, okay, this hobby is becoming expensive now. It's time to start making a little bit of money off of it and pay its own way, instead of um, just being a hole to dump money into. So, anyways, we started dabbling a little bit with direct to consumer. Started out with a friend of mine that did a little bit of marketing for us, but then it wasn't until about 21 that we really started getting serious about trying to push it out direct to consumer, and went through a lot of hard knocks trying to figure things out. Um, but yeah, now today we've got about 50 head of bison cows, and we don't sell any live animals. We do everything rotational grazing in the summertime. It's all grass fed, grass finished, antibiotic free. Not saying we've got everything figured out yet. We're still learning like crazy, but the more we're around these animals, the bison are just an extremely cool animal. And yeah, their demand is out there for it. It's just been the biggest challenge for us, has been getting the word out there, which we've made some huge headways in the last couple of years here. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm excited about what Beef Maps is going to do too, for just help spread the word.
Yeah, we even have buffalo maps in the works to hook up more of these producers together.
You bet. No, that's going to be exciting. So, our big focuses are more on the bulk bison. We do a lot of eighths, quarters, halves, wholes, that kind of stuff. But then we've also do meat sticks. And we've got a jerky lineup as well that has really been exploding for us the last little while. So that's kind of exciting. It's a couple different ways and routes we can go, but it's fun meeting a ton of new people because of it.
I think it's just amazing that we all get to work together, even though we live all across the country. I don't know about you, but I feel like I know each of these ranchers here that's on this call. And, we were talking about first generation ranchers. That's one thing that I love about Joe and Jenny is they're just so open to learning new things and new ideas. And maybe that's you guys can say, but it seems to me that it's because you've invited your sons back to the ranch. And Jenny was telling me the other day about adding goats and getting all the goats figured out and how to graze them and all the things.
Yeah, we have, like I said, when we were doing the commercial end of stuff, we were fighting hard to kill weeds and wasn't doing it a very good way. As everybody knows, you try. So my son started investigating on how to do stuff like more regenerative, like we're moving towards, and he and his wife, my youngest son, and his wife invested in some bred goats. They delivered them from Oklahoma, I think. I can't remember exactly where from. And so they've become the new weed patrol on the ranch. And then possibly we could start introducing them as some of our meats too. So it's been a learning curve. It's been a lot of fun to watch the little babies come, and so it's been a good addition to the place for sure.
I just think it's so fun as we all learn. We're all kind of going the same direction. And it just happens naturally. Like Slim says, um, what do they call it? Chicken math, where you get one chicken and you end up with 50 chickens, or one chicken plus five chickens equals 12 chickens. That's how it started on our ranch, anyway. And I became the crazy farm with all the critters running around. And yeah, oh well, I might have gone to a chicken sale and ended up coming home with like four goats in the dog box on my pickup. You know, that's ranch life. I'm sure you guys have some of those crazy stories as well. Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight. I'm sure June has got some fun stuff to say to close this out. This has been amazing. We're going to get better and better each week as we do this, but definitely join us every Wednesday night. We're going to do this at 7:30 Central, and then these Beef Maps conversations will be turned into podcasts that will live on Beef News. That way, we can help other people learn how to buy direct from a rancher. And when you guys are on here, then I can direct people straight to get to know you, is my goal. To get to hear the voice of your rancher, get to see your rancher. Maybe June will help me figure out some of this technical stuff about how to do a Facebook Live at the same time we're doing Spaces Live. Is that right, June? He might have had to step out. I know that he was pretty sick earlier today. I got him convinced to sip on some bone broth yesterday and try to heal himself that way. Um, Maybe that's what I'll end with. What is your favorite thing to cook or your favorite thing to use from your cattle? Sawyer, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Yeah, we are a massive fan of smoked chuck roast. Our chuck roasts are incredible, and put them on the smoker and treat them just like a brisket. Smoke them all day long, and get them to 165, and then pull them and wrap them, and then put them back on till 200, um, and then pull them off, rest them for an hour, and slice it like brisket, and it just melts in your mouth. It's unbelievable. So that's one of our favorites. Other than that, you just can't beat a good reverse seared Wagyu ribeye.
I am drooling. That is something we have to talk about so that I can write that up because I have never smoked a brisket. We've only started playing with this, or never smoked a chuck roast. We've just started playing with briskets. So,
Yeah, it's
um,
like 4-man brisket. You buy it for
Yeah.
cheaper, but it's incredible.
Yeah, and
Oh
then
my
you can
goodness.
cut them into your own steaks and then reverse sear them, and
Yeah.
it's a pretty good cut. One of the cuts that really launched us to do rattlesnake is a minute steak or a cube steak, and people often overlook it and they think they can only make chicken fried steaks from it or things like that. But my favorite way, and I just made them last night, are cowboy sandwiches. You just pan sear. You cut your minute steaks in strips and then you pan sear them and hit it with a little bit of seasoned salt, and then finish it off with some Worcestershire sauce or Worcester sauce, and it makes such a good sandwich. Or you can just, if you're carnivore or keto, you just eat the meat, and fantastic, doesn't take very long at all. One of our favorites.
Oh my goodness. I suspect we might have a series going here. Tell me what you call them again.
We call them a cowboy sandwich,
Oh, yum.
but it's just your minute steak, and then you cut it into strips, and then just pan sear it in a little bit of butter. Hit it with seasoned salt. Finish it off with some Worcestershire sauce. You can also add in some caramelized onions, and then toast your hoagie bun, and then put all of that on the bun. I hit it with a little. I like it a little bit hotter than Matt does, so I hit mine with a little bit of Tabasco sauce, and it's such a good cut to do that with.
Oh my goodness. Anthony, what's your favorite bison cut?
Oh,
You're going to teach us all something here.
well, my all-time favorite is going to be the ribeye on a smoker, done very hot, seared to rare, about 125 internal temperatures. All the higher I like taking them, since bison is a lean meat. Don't want to overdo it, but the other cut that we absolutely love is going to be short ribs. We'll do them at about 250 on the smoker for about 4 or 5 hours. And all we ever do as far as seasonings go is soak them in a salt brine the night before. But we'll put them on the smoker for 4 or 5 hours, and then we'll finish them out in the oven. We'll wrap them in tinfoil, finish them out in the oven at 225 as well for another 4 to 5 hours, and they fall apart tender. And the cool thing with short ribs is my wife just did over 20 pounds of them today, for our little family. She'll literally wrap them up, keep them wrapped up in meal-sized packages, and freeze the finished product. And then when she wants a fast meal later in the week, she just pulls one of them packages out, throws it in the oven, warms it up, and is ready to go, and is absolutely amazing.
That is my kind of gal. Oh my goodness. I love doing that. That's why we always cook 3 or 4 briskets at a time.
Yeah.
Because then I can pan sear them. I can make taquitos with them really quick, or I can throw some barbecue sauce on them for sandwiches. Just all the different things. And I can feed those people that call me mom in under 15
Yep.
minutes.
No, it is. It's a fast way to cook up a quick meal that's quality and absolutely delicious.
If I'm going to run the smoker, I'm going to fill it.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
what's your favorite, Joe or Jenny or Breeauna?
Gosh, you've hit on just about every one of them. We like the chuck roast, the briskets, all those. Joe and I don't have a smoker, but 2 of our kids do, so they do a lot of smoking for all of us. But if I don't have the smoker, I like to throw a chuck roast in our oven early in the morning in one of my Dutch ovens, just low and slow all day. And then when I get home from work, we just slice it up, or we can shred it and make our tacos out of it, or any kind of stuff we can make with Mexican food. That's what we're all about. But it's hard to beat a good rib steak or a T-bone too. Grilling them or on the open fire outside in our pit. It's just tough to beat. We do a lot of burger. Like, we do a lot of different things with our hamburger, which is, as everybody knows, so versatile. We make chilies out of them. We'll make Mexican, poor man Mexican steak out of it. And we have, I don't know that I could pinpoint a favorite, because we, just like everybody else, like and enjoy all those cuts, especially if you can have them smoked.
I think
Well,
I saw some amazing tacos in a video the other day. Bree, what's your favorite?
All right, so don't kill me, but honestly, we love hamburger in our household. Make a lot of we make a lot of spaghetti and stroganoff, and honestly, like, this is a big thing for me, because when I'm buying hamburger from the grocery store, for example, I have no idea what's in it, and oftentimes there's like Yeah, I mean, you can have up to 100, the genetics of up to 100 different cattle in just one hamburger from the grocery store. So this has really been exciting for us, I think, to not only produce our own food, but to be able to. What is that? Gross. Okay. But yeah, anyways, to be able to know like what is actually in the food that we're producing. So yeah, it's exciting to get our steaks back all nice and marbled. Yeah, just a minute. No. You need to eat your food. But also to be able to have good hamburger meat. Like we like our hamburgers in this household. So yeah.
I love it. Bree, you're living real life. I remember those days when the kids are running around like crazies in the background while you're trying to get something done. And yes, all we ate at that time in my life was 100% ground beef. That's literally why I started with the box of Hamburger Helper, because it was quick, easy, simple, and I knew that usually 90% of the family would eat it. Um, Slim, what's your favorite cut and what's your favorite meal?
Well, that's why I had my hand raised because you're helping me sell the cleanest burger in the nation right now. And I think Adele said that that's what she's buying from us. And it's a good point to make because a lot of people can't afford, these cuts or these value cuts. And we have a lot of moms trying to feed their children. And my goal with the Texas Slim's burger is to let moms feed their children again. And 80% of the beef we eat in the United States is ground beef. And a lot of that, mixture thereof, like Breeauna said, has many genetics in it and comes from many different countries. And so it's time to just get to the source and, understand, how you can basically understand beef, where your entry point is, because I'm up here in Amarillo, Texas, where it's the big Texan, and they have the 72-ounce steak. And me and Cole Bolton of K&C Cattle have engineered some pretty good tomahawks. And so our tomahawk ribeyes are going to start hitting the market again soon as well. And so from a tomahawk ribeye all the way to ground beef. So that's what we're loving these days with Texas Slim's cuts.
I agree. Marcy or Matt, did you want to jump in and say something?
Yeah, I was going to say really fast, and I know that you hit on this a lot with some of the series that you do, but ground beef is probably our number one item that we cook at our house. We haven't quite figured out. Maybe Texas Slim has, but we ain't figured out quite yet of how to make a whole cow into a ribeye. So you do have that whole ground beef, and so what works best for us, and we're on the go all the time, and Shannon's on the go all the time, Anthony's on the go all the time also. But I have it set out to thaw right now, but I have 4 pounds of ground beef thawing for tomorrow night, and that's all I'll cook up is the 4 pounds of ground beef. We'll put most of it to the side, 2 or 1.5 pounds, and then my girls are a little bit older than Breeaana's, it sounds like, but um, but that's what they'll eat on for like they make their own wraps out of it, and all it is just brown ground beef. So it's so versatile and it's so easy to grab and go, especially if you are carnivore or trying to do a high protein diet. Ground beef is one of the best to do that with.
It's so crazy. It sounds like we all do the same things without even knowing it, because literally on Sunday, I cooked a 5 pound package of ground beef. And I did like Friday before. And I made one into tacos. I did a whole 5 pounds into um, meatballs of different flavors. That way I had them all cooked up. And I knew that I have a 17-year-old still at the house. Um, and so I've never experienced a 17-year-old before, a 17-year-old boy anyway. My older two are girls. But the stomach of a 17-year-old boy is a thing in its own. But also, I never know if I'm going to have one kid or three kids at the house eating. So we do the same thing. We cook up a whole 5 pound chub of ground beef, and that way I know that I have extras. So when anybody walks in the house and they're starving, they can eat in 5 minutes or less. Did anybody of the other listeners down there have any questions for us tonight? We look forward to seeing you. If you haven't done so, go to Welcome to Beef and drop your email in there. I promise you'll only get emails from Crazy Ranch Mama. But I will introduce you to all of our amazing ranchers across the nation that are a part of the Beef Initiative. And if you haven't done so, check out Beef Maps. We love all of our ranchers and want to make sure that we help you find your favorite rancher. But the crazy thing is we have customers like Adele who have their favorite ground beef rancher and have their favorite steak rancher. I have one guy who literally orders from me and Chapman every single month, and I'm 100% grass fed and he is grain finished. So we love seeing the differences. We love hearing all your thoughts. Thank you guys for joining us tonight, and I look forward to talking with you again next week and hopefully sharing more details about our new partnership.
Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Ranch Mama, for being such a great co host. We will have this up as a podcast at beefnews.org. You can also search for Beef News in your favorite podcasting app. You can support us on Podcasting 2.0 by exchanging value for value with us with Bitcoin. We are, of course, decentralized to the core. Ranch Mama Shanen will get in touch with you if you sign your email up at welcometobeef.com. You can join us on our mission and the rest of the I Am Texas Slim Foundation, including Breeauna Sagdal and Texas Slim, of course, by visiting savebeef.org. And you can find all of your local beef and bison and much, much more at beefmaps.com. There's a war on beef, guys, and the first battleground is beef.com. So join us at savebeef.org. Everybody have a great night. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to drink the rest of this bone broth here and try to get myself a little bit better because I have to do another 12-hour day tomorrow. It's just got to happen. We're trying to save the ranch, people. So, all right. Y'all have a great rest of your night. Thanks for joining the Beef Initiative, the I Am Texas Slim Foundation, Ebersole Cattle Company, Rattlesnake Meat Company, Legacy Ranch, Jay-Z Meats, Miller Bison. My name is Ruffshot June. I'm your host along with Ranch Mama Shanen, and y'all have a blessed week. We'll see you next week.